VAR is bad. Yeah, look, listen, lads, I'm not gonna lie. When VAR was first introduced, I liked the concept. And I did. A referee could make an absolutely dog water decision.
It's a fucking disgrace.
And a random man somewhere else in the country could get the lines out and then also use the apparatus for a VAR offside decision. And like us, see all the angles that the referee on the pitch can't see. At the end of the day, a referee making a mistake, acceptable. They can't have eyes all over the ground, alright? But time and time again, we have been let down by VAR operators having all of the evidence in front of them and providing a service as bad as Kyle Walker has been at right back this season. Arse, hopefully not on the screen. And hopefully with not as many wives or girlfriends. And that has not changed this season or this year, for example. So with the year coming to an end, in this time of giving, we're giving VAR operators their P45s. And hopefully hiring people with more expertise. Although based on the ads they were putting out and the fact that you don't actually have to be a football fan to apply, I don't have that much faith. These are the worst VAR decisions of 2024. Otherwise known as Wolverhampton Wanderers highlights of 2024. Now for me, there's only one place to start when it comes to VAR controversies of 2024. Now don't forget, that is the 2024 year. So that kind of encapsulates the second half of that season, and that is where this first one comes from. It is the FA Cup semi-final. Manchester United were comfortably leading over Coventry, only for the Championship side to pull off one of the great comebacks and to find themselves in a position where in the final minute they were heading to the final, only for the goal to be disallowed by one of the tightest offside calls, where the line literally goes over Aaron Wan-Bissaka's foot. There's an alternate angle of this that got filmed from the crowd where it genuinely looks impossible for this to have been offside. Like, I know this is the official lines and whatever, and a bit of footage from a certain angle can look misleading, but genuinely it's actually almost a bit criminal, especially again when you consider the line goes over Wan-Bissaka's foot. You can literally see it go over his boot rather than it being at the end of his boot, and given this is so tight, the lines basically intersect each other, that could have made all the difference. I am a firm believer, okay, I know this will cause even more problems, that VAR should take into account the moment. There needs to be a dedicated author on site at Stockley Park who can look into the overall logistics of what's happened, but also look into the future, or kind of look at the situation and decide whether this would be back page news immediately for like the rest of the year. This Coventry comeback against United would have been a footballing moment for the ages. Take that into account, please. Like, genuinely, like, let's just say that if this is gonna be offside, like an extra yard has to be added on to Wan-Bissaka's foot, and then if it's still offside, then fairs. Nah, genuinely. But like, again, this is where it comes into this whole, like, you used to have a bit of a benefit of the doubt for the attacker when it came to offsides, and I know that created a grey area in itself. There's no perfect way, but at least fucking draw the lines in the right place, for fuck's sake. When it's something as tight as this as well, when it's angle based, because this camera is not even vertically in line with the attacker and also with Aaron Wan-Bissaka here, it's basically guesswork, and that's how it looks, to be honest with you. Coventry were robbed. But there's not many instances during VAR's history where a team has come out and actively said that it's useless, okay? There's not been many situations where VAR has been lambasted online and the club themselves have insinuated corruption. That was until Nottingham Forest played Everton at Goodison Park and Ashley Young managed to get away with every possible type of infringement in one game. A hat-trick of penalties that could have been given. A stonewall kick to a heel, I think it was Gio Reyna, then a handball that went straight across his arm, then a shocking challenge on Callum Hudson-Odoi, all in the space of like 10 minutes, I'm pretty sure, let alone in the space of one half of football. Nottingham Forest then tweeted about it, subsequently got fined about it, but I honestly, if we're gonna get this level of incompetence, bring the tweets out. I want WWE free-for-all stuff on social media when teams are getting done dirty like this, because it's 1-0 at the time at which these decisions are happening. Everton, I'm pretty sure, did go on to win this game as well. It was an absolute joke that Forest didn't get a single penalty here, and they were quite right to be frustrated about it on social media. Now, don't get it twisted, Everton need all the help they can get to earn 3 points in a football match. We all know that. But Forest were in a relegation battle at this time. If they'd ended up up going down because of this, they surely would have had some sort of plausible case. Somebody has to get sued for this. I don't know whether, you know, he's 39, whether his senile brain forgot about the laws of the game going into the match, but to get away with all three being Stonewall, is really criminal behavior. I mentioned Wolves at the start of this video. I don't even know where to begin when it comes to anti-Wolves decisions, but one where Cunha basically was ran into by a Bournemouth defender, I think it was Kirkesh, at the start of play, like 4 passes before a ball is put into the box, is crazy. Like, actually criminal. This one was given as a foul from Cunha on Kirkesh. I think he like flailed an arm out, but basically Kirkesh ran into the back of him. Play carried on for like 6-7 seconds, then a ball was put in. It was pulled back for a foul. I don't know if this one received a PGMOL apology. Honestly, Gary O'Neill's P45 after getting sacked should have a PGMOL apology at the bottom, because the amount of times Wolves got dicked over, especially last season, was criminal. Brighton v Southampton is a very, very recent example. Perhaps the worst, like, pound for pound VAR decision that I've ever seen, based on the fact that it was actually later justified again by VAR and the PGMOL. A ball is basically played into the middle for Southampton, you know, set Southampton attackers to, attack. The first attacker has disrupted Verbruggen's ability to come out and claim the ball because he happens to be in the local area. That is a load of shit. That is, like, once you start doing that, you could disallow any goal. Like, genuinely any goal. Also, there was a example of, I think, was it Nathan Ake scored a goal against Fulham? This is from last year. But the goal was not disallowed, even though there was a player clearly in Leno's vision, or that could have gone for the ball, and it wasn't given then. So what has changed in the rules where a ball into the box can be intentionally left by a player? He's not interfered because he's left it, and it is still disallowed, even though that wasn't on the shot and he wasn't in front of the goalkeeper. It's crazy. You could start coming up with hypothetical scenarios about everything. Oh, a defender might choose to breathe slightly differently if there's not a guy right behind him. That allows him to respire and photosynthesize in a different manner. That then allows him to position himself to block an attacker's shot. It's crazy. Add that many permutations, every game's 0-0, I swear down. And unsurprisingly, Southampton also suffered head loss on this one, making the offside decision the thumbnail on their YouTube highlights. I'm not surprised. Firmly deserving awful decision. We've then got a brace that surround Manchester United. One positive and one negative. We'll start with the bad news. Lisandro Martinez is an idiot.
3 in an attitude.
Now, I know that he has to jump in order to be the actual size of a normal human being, but that doesn't mean that he needs to jump into challenges like this on Kamada versus Palace. How on earth this was not given as a red card is beyond me. Now, I know there was no contact made with the player, but just diving into a challenge like this, jumping up in the air, is the first red card, yeah? Double footing the action towards the ball. This is 2 red cards in one tackle. No matter whether he's made a connection with the player, the actual outcome shouldn't be the reason for a decision being made, if that makes sense. It's why, you know, sometimes a player like breaks his ankle. The guy that's tackled him is just automatically sent off. I think Pascal Strout once tackled Harvey Elliott, and it was a horror injury. Harvey Elliott dislocated his ankle. It looked horrific. But the tackle was actually really good. He got the ball, he played the ball, he scooped it away and then continued play. It was a textbook challenge, but he got sent off because of the injury to Elliott, which is just unfortunate. That just happens, and I always thought at the time that was really unfair. You take away what actually happens, the tackle itself is a shocker, and that's the case here with Lisandro Martinez. I don't know why he does this every now and again. I don't know whether it's to, like, assert dominance against people that are 7 inches taller than him, but it is outrageous, and yeah, this one should have been a red card. Stonewall. Right in the middle of the Eric Ten Hag banter era as well. That's what I'm saying. Add a story writer to the VAR room, he gives that as a red, because it just would have made things funnier for Ten Hag. But on the flip side, and in a game that literally just happened as I'm recording this, Manchester United did receive a penalty later on in the game and did end up coming back from behind to beat Man City in the Manchester derby at the Etihad. But how different things could have been if it wasn't for Amad Diallo's brilliance, because Ruben Diaz definitely should have given away a penalty here against Rasmus Højlund. I've not been a massive fan of Rasmus Højlund in terms of, like, his overall ability this season, but he certainly puts himself into good positions, and he did so here. Provided the strength to stop Diaz from getting the ball whilst being taken down, it's a penalty. Diaz has wrapped his leg around Højlund, hasn't got anywhere near the ball, and has brought him down. That's a penalty. And it was so bizarre because I was watching the game live, and the commentator was like, nah, Not a pen, mate. Not enough contact. I said, what are we even doing here? If there's contact that brings you down, it's a pen. And there's more than enough here. I don't understand that point of view. And then live on, at the same time, Mike Dean comes across and goes, yeah, now we don't give those in a game like this. What do we mean a game like this? Every game is the same game as far as the laws of football are concerned. There's no football match where the teams involved or the moment itself changes the rule book, okay? If something is a pen, you give it as a pen, lads. Maybe they have got the story writer in there. Maybe they've already done what I wanted to do. Because to be fair, we don't get the cinema that happens later in the game with Amad Diallo scoring 54 seconds after the penalty if this penalty is given in the first place. So maybe I'll go hold my hands up. Maybe we have got a storyline writer in there already. Now though, it's time to get continental, alright? We're leaving England, okay? Because as much as British and English referees are definitely the most incompetent in the world, we can all agree on that one, there is incompetence that happens elsewhere. Now, we're starting off with one that is just factually wrong. And this is when Sweden, I think, played Azerbaijan in the Nations League. And Alexander Isak was given as offside here. Now, I don't know whether a 68-year-old pensioner with a hip replacement and the lowest score on his Specsavers account was in charge of the linesman's flag here. But how this has been given as offside and then been checked by VAR and still been given as offside is beyond me. Like, even the lines in the grass are there to help you out. Yep, unless Alexander Isak has the longest shoulder in human history, that is obviously onside. Wasn't given, was ruled out, went to VAR, was still ruled out. Not really sure what happened on this one. I knew the VAR guy shouldn't have been from Baku. Shocking decision. One that's a lot more contentious was this one. Barcelona versus Real Sociedad. The actual conclusion, at least, that they came to here, rather than the Sweden one, was that it was offside. But I honestly think there's a debate to be made here. I'm sorry. The actual screenshot, like the real life screenshot, I mean, just doesn't look quite the same in terms of boot position as what you end up getting. I mean, if he was a size 8, he's not offside, but I guess that's the rules, really. VAR, I think, in Spain is slightly different. It's not to do with lines. It's almost like one, like there's one strict line, and if any of your body parts go through it, then you're off. Whereas in the Premier League and, you know, in England, it's more line-based. If those lines merge, then it's not offside. So I don't know what you would have got if you'd actually drawn the lines like they do in the Premier League with this one, whether it still would have been off or on. But either way, I just don't think this is what offsides should look like with VAR. I don't feel like these are the decisions that people looked at back in the day and said, we've got to get technology involved. Do you know what I mean? No one looked at Lewandowski, saw he was a size 12 and said, actually, nah, that goal shouldn't stand. One thing I don't like about VAR as well is that it can and can't do certain things. Like if an obvious mistake has been made in the build up to a goal, like a corner that shouldn't have been given, it can't intervene. When something should be a yellow card, but it's not been given as anything, it can't intervene. So if someone's getting like a second yellow, can't actually interject and change the state of play. If someone's gotten away with a challenge that is definitely a yellow bordering a red, it can't get involved. And I do hate that, to be honest with you. It's kind of like Caicedo's challenge on Pap Sarr against Spurs the other day when Chelsea won 4-3. There's an argument to say that could have been a red. It didn't receive anything. Not even a free kick in favour of Tottenham because it wasn't quite a red, but it was still shocking enough to need to review. I don't know. It's a weird grey area, but then also they'll say, oh, it's clear and obvious, I guess, in regards to that. But clear and obvious stuff also doesn't get given half the time too. Now, Europe has had a lot of controversies this year. Don't get it twisted. Real's late goal, I can't remember who they were playing against, but Jude Bellingham scored late on. The referee had already blown his whistle, though, at the point the ball was in the air, ready to be headed in. Who blows for full time? Dare. Like, yeah, Fairs, he did blow his whistle before the goal was actually scored. But, like, why would you do that? Even if you're, like, 10 seconds over the allotted time, you wait for the ball to, you know, be cleared away or end up in a bit more of a central position. Real Madrid, though, were on the receiving end of some very favourable, you know, decisions at the start of the year when they won 3-2. And in Italy, there was a whole week of absolute shambolic decisions in October where everyone actually had to sit and have a meeting because it was that bad, including Reinders from Milan getting sent off for preventing a goal-scoring opportunity, even though he'd not actually tried to take the player down, which, given in the new rules when it comes to 2 final man red cards would indicate that he should only get a yellow, I believe. The same game then featured an Udinese offside, where a goal was disallowed for a very marginal decision. In the same weekend, Juventus versus Lazio saw a very, well, kind of soft red card for Romagnoli in comparison to a Juventus player then elbowing a Lazio player off the ball. But I'll be honest, I still think English referees take the crown. And mostly, once again, in relation to Wolves, where at the end of last season against West Ham, there were 3 goals that featured potential blocking on a goalkeeper. It was only the one that benefited Wolves that was disallowed, despite 2 examples that were exactly the same happening in elsewhere in the game that were not given. Again, just massive amounts of inconsistency, I think, is one of the most frustrating things for fans. You can look at 2 identical incidents that happened 2 weeks apart or even 20 minutes apart, and one will be disallowed, one will be given, one's a red card, one's a yellow. One that I never understood was Jeremy Doku getting away with karate kicking Alexis McAllister in the penalty area when Liverpool faced Man City last season. I don't think he even got the ball in this one. The ball just changed trajectory off Alexis McAllister and then he was karate kicked. Like, what are we doing here? And one that I actually want to end on here, because I actually have a lot to say about it as a regards to a rule in the rule book of football, is when Morgan Rogers had a goal disallowed for Aston Villa against Juventus in the final minute against the Italian side in the Champions League, where an Aston Villa defender goes up for a header up against Juventus's goalkeeper. He's slightly, bumped into a little bit, falls for Morgan Rogers who puts it in. The goal is disallowed. Now, this as a whole, maybe to the laws of the game, this is technically correct, especially in the Champions League where it's just not a contact sport anymore. But goalkeepers are the most overprotected species on the planet, genuinely. It's like there's the RSPCA, WWF are all coming together and these lot are endangered. It's actually crazy. As a goalkeeper, you have a unique ability in football. You can use these things. Arms and hands go quite a long way above your head or outward away from your body. That's a key advantage in an aerial challenge. If a small piece of contact means that you're incapable of doing anything, then you should be punished. That's not my problem. As the attacker, that's not my fault. There should be at least a little bit of a sliding scale. If you're barged out of the way, if an attacker clearly is not making an attempt to get to the ball, if it's the same amount of contact that would result in a foul anywhere else on the pitch, then fine, give it. We've all seen, a little bit of shoulder to shoulder action out, in the middle of, halfway line or whatever. That's like different from a foul, okay? A little bit of strength is not the same as shoulder barging somebody over. In this situation, goalkeepers are starting to use it to their advantage, where they can claim that any amount of contact means that they're going to get a free kick, basically. And I'm fed up of it generally as a rule. Just slap some bubble wrap around yourselves or something and get on with the game. It's one of the most frustrating things, honestly, in football at the moment. But that's a selection of the worst VAR decisions from this calendar year, 2024. But as the year comes to a close and we realise that VAR is still a shambles, what has been your worst VAR call of the year? In any league, drop it down in the comment section below. Whether it be in Europe, maybe whether it be in the Euros. I didn't really talk too much about the Euros or any international competitions, because generally speaking, the Euros and AFCON tend to do VAR a lot better. You've got semi-automated offsides when it comes to the Euros, which are a lot quicker, a lot more decisive, and generally speaking, a lot more accurate. And African Cup of Nations, I can't really think of anything there as well. It just seems like domestic leagues and the Champions League need to catch up. If you enjoyed this video though, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to hit the join button down below. You get videos like this a little bit earlier, some exclusive content soon, and also some cool perks that you can use like emotes and stuff in box premieres. It's just the best way to support the channel, so I'd really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you do choose to do that. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.